In the glittering world of British royalty, where every gesture is measured and every secret meticulously guarded, a hidden tragedy lay buried in the shadows. Two cousins of Queen Elizabeth II, Nerissa and Katherine Bowes-Lyon, were born into a life of aristocratic privilege, yet their fate would be sealed not by the pomp of palace ceremonies, but by the cold, unyielding walls of an institution. Nerissa Jane Irene Bowes-Lyon first opened her eyes on a February day in 1919, while her younger sister, Katherine Juliet, followed in the glow of a midsummer July in 1926. They were the daughters of John Herbert Bowes-Lyon and Fenella Hepburn Stewart Forbes Trefusis, a union that wove together the threads of two noble lineages. Their father, the second son of Claude Bowes-Lyon, the 14th Earl of Strathmore and Kinghorn, was the brother of the woman who would become known to the world as Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. By blood and by fate, the two girls were first cousins to Queen Elizabeth II and Princess Margaret, a connection that should have promised a life of public adulation and high society. Instead, destiny had charted a different course. Born with severe developmental disabilities, conditions by the cruel standards of the era, labeled with words now recognized as both outdated and dehumanizing, Nerissa and Katherine were never afforded the chance to find their voice. The world around them, steeped in the polished veneer of aristocratic decorum, would not accommodate what it deemed an imperfection. By 1941, when Nerissa was a young woman of 22 and Katherine a fragile 15, a decision was made that would forever alter the course of their lives. They were placed in the Royal Earlswood Hospital in Red Hill, Surrey, an institution dedicated to those deemed unfit for the world beyond its walls. Within Earlswood, sterile corridors, the sisters vanished from public view. Their existence became a well-kept secret, obscured by a deliberate erasure that extended even to the genealogical records of Britain's most authoritative peerage compendium. The 1963 edition of Burke's Peerage, considered the definitive record of noble lineage, shockingly recorded Nerissa as having died in 1940 and Katherine in 1961. It was a fiction, a bureaucratic mistake some claimed, or a tidy expedient to avoid the scrutiny of a society unwilling to acknowledge its own imperfections. Then, in 1987, the truth emerged like a burst of light through a long-forgotten window. An intrepid journalist from The Sun uncovered the grim reality. These cousins, linked by blood to a reigning queen, had been living out their days in isolation within an institution designed for the mentally disabled. The revelation struck a chord, exposing not only a family secret, but also a societal failure. Public outrage swelled when it was revealed that Nerissa had died the previous year, in 1986, at the age of 66. Her funeral, devoid of the solemn pomp one would expect for a member of the royal family, was a solitary affair. A simple grave in Redstone Cemetery, marked only by a plastic tag and a serial number. Only under the harsh glare of media scrutiny did her relatives hastily commission a proper headstone. Katherine, on the other hand, lingered on within the confines of care facilities long after Nerissa's passing. From her early years at Earlswood to subsequent homes in Surrey following the institution's closure in 1997, her life remained a quiet testament to institutional neglect until she finally passed away in 2014. The uncovering of their hidden existence sparked fierce debates and bitter accusations. Many argued that the royal family, desperate to maintain an unblemished public image, had deliberately cast these vulnerable women into obscurity, a silence born not of benign neglect, but of a willful erasure of an inconvenient truth. In the midst of the ensuing controversy, Lord Clinton, a cousin of the sisters, insisted that the error in Burke Peerage was nothing more than a clerical oversight, attributing the misinformation to their mother Fenella's vague record-keeping. Yet for many, the notion that a family so closely intertwined with the monarchy could treat its own with such indifference was difficult to swallow. A 2011 documentary titled The Queen's Hidden Cousins lent further weight to the narrative of abandonment. Caregivers at Earlswood recounted a disheartening absence of familial warmth. No birthday cards, no Christmas gifts, no signs of acknowledgement from a family that should have epitomized care and compassion. While some relatives later contended that Fenella had indeed visited regularly until her death in 1966 and that gifts had been dispatched on special occasions, the pervasive image that emerged was one of isolation and neglect. Even the Queen Mother, it was later claimed, had only arranged for modest allowances to bring small comforts, mere tokens in a life otherwise defined by institutional routine. The saga of Nerissa and Katherine was not an isolated tragedy within their lineage. It was part of a broader, more disturbing pattern that had afflicted the extended family. Their Aunt Harriet Hepburn Stewart Forbes Trefusis had borne children who similarly suffered from severe disabilities. 3 of her daughters were also committed to Earlswood. Medical researchers examining the shadow cast by this recurring misfortune speculated on a genetic affliction, one that might have been exacerbated by the intermarriage common within aristocratic circles. As the world turned its critical eye toward the British aristocracy, the story of these hidden cousins ignited a broader conversation about disability and the harsh, sometimes inhumane treatment meted out to those who did not conform to societal norms. In an age when perfection was prized above all, the fate of Nerissa and Katherine served as a poignant reminder that even the highest echelons of power could be complicit in a system that devalued human life based on its deviations. This somber narrative, replete with secrets and suppressed truths, continues to resonate as a stark critique of an era when appearances were everything and imperfections were hidden away. The tragic lives of Nerissa and Katherine Bowes-Lyon, cousins of a queen yet discarded like inconvenient footnotes in a family history, remain an indelible part of the British royal saga. Their story, unearthed against a backdrop of institutional isolation and societal prejudice, stands as a lasting testament to the hidden costs of maintaining a facade of perfection and to the enduring human need for compassion and acknowledgement. In the annals of history, where tales of grandeur and privilege often dominate, the quiet suffering of these 2 women serves as a powerful, if painful, reminder that behind every illustrious title there may lie forgotten souls whose lives were sacrificed at the altar of reputation. Their legacy, marked by both tragedy and resilience, continues to echo, a call to remember that true nobility lies not in the perfection of one's public image, but in the acknowledgement and care for every human being, regardless of their perceived imperfection.